Hi there guys, my name's John from activegr.com, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through my top tips for the Garmin Fenix 6. So before we get started, if you've got your own tip or suggestion, or you've got a comment or a question about any of the things I talk about in the video, leave it in the comment section below. And also don't forget to subscribe, guys, it's greatly appreciated. But also if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Also throughout this video, any of the actual settings changes that need to be made will appear above here. So don't forget to look out for those as we go through this video. So thanks very much. Let's get straight into the video. Starting with profile setup. Now, profile setup is equally as important as keeping your watch charged or having the best battery life. The reason being is the profile information that's on the watch and in Garmin Connect helps drive a lot of the data, such as calories burned, your first beat data, and all of those things in order to calculate your performance. So when you first set up your watch, and if you've been a long-term Garmin user, your profile data should be transferred across the watch. But in my case, I found that it wasn't. So it's worth making sure that the profile data is all up to date, especially if you're going through a big weight change and you're losing weight. It's worth keeping your weight data up to date in your watch and on Garmin Connect, just to make sure everything's syncing. The other thing to watch out for is your heart rate information. Make sure your heart rate zones are correct based on your age, and also your resting heart rate is also in there. This again helps with a lot of the calculations that the watch needs to make. Finally, if you're using a power meter, make sure the power meter information is up to date and it's based on your power meter settings. Now moving on to sports profiles. The Garmin Fenix 6 comes with a variety of different sports profiles. Some people may not know there's actually more sports profiles that you can add that are right at the bottom in the add menu. You can add more sports profiles, and depending on the activity, there's about 30 odd that are in there that you'll be able to get access to add to the watch. Now, one of my top tips is if you do a lot of running, cycling and swimming, and they're mainly your activities you do, you can reorder the sports profile, so you can have these right at the top. So when you first go into the sports profile menu, then your most used activities are right there. So it's worth reordering them or removing ones that you're not going to use, so you can get access to your ones very quickly. Now the Garmin Fenix 6 has got a big upgrade in terms of the widgets. Now these are called widgets glances, and they are more appealing to the eye. Now whilst the UIs change, you can still add and remove and also reorder the widgets. So again, similar to the sports profiles, if you are using certain widgets and you want to get to some very quickly, it's worth reordering them or simply removing the ones you don't want to look at. I think that's really useful, and it's certainly something that I do with all of my watches. Now the next one is the safety settings. Now the Fenix 6 comes with internet detection and also assistance. Now internet detection works with certain sports profiles, running, cycling and a number of others. If you're out and it detects you falling over, it will after a short period of time send a message to your emergency contacts that you're in distress and your GPS location. Now this needs to be set up in advance before you go out. Similar to assistance, this can be activated by holding down the light button, and again it will send your emergency contacts that you're in need of assistance and with your GPS location. And now you do need your smartphone that's connected to your watch with you, but it still works really well, and it's a very useful feature if you're in need of help. Now to do this, you go into Garmin Connect, follow all the instructions and set it up. It's really worth setting that up, as it could be a lifesaver in the future. Now the other one is the quick access menu. Now this is activated again by pressing the light button, and it gives you access to your most used settings. Now what a lot of people don't know is you can actually reorder these, or you can actually add and remove and put the ones that you use the most in there. Now next up is the data screens. Now the Garmin Fenix 6 has had a big overhaul when it comes to the data screens. The Fenix 6 has up to 6 data fields, and the Garmin 6X has up to 8 data fields. Whilst the Garmin Fenix 6 has already got some predefined data screens and data fields, these may not match your preferences. So before you go out using your watch, I know you're excited to use it, make sure you spend some time to set up the data fields that you're going to want to use. Now my top tip is set up your first screen with all the information that you want to see at a quick glance. Then the second and third and fourth screen, or how many screens you want to use, is the data you would want to look at if you say out cycling and you stopped and you want to have a scroll through and have a look at that information. Worth also pointing out, you need to set up the data screens and data fields per activity. This is particularly important if you have got a run activity and you've got a trail run activity and you want the same data screens and data fields. You need to set them up individually for those sports profiles. Next up is battery life tips. Now, whilst the Garmin Fenix 6 has got some improvements on the battery life, you can still do a lot more in order to get a lot more out of that battery life. The first tip, and this is the same tip I gave with the Fenix 5 and the Fenix 5 Plus, was simply change the backlight settings for both smartwatch mode and during activity. If you just make these changes that I'm putting on the screen now, this will significantly improve the battery life of your watch and allow you to get more out of the device for both activities and when it's not in an activity mode. I also advocate turning off smart notifications. Personally, for two reasons. One, I don't think they're particularly useful. You can't interact them like you can with an Apple Watch. You're going to pick up your phone anyway. So a lot of people have the phone nearby and I don't think they're particularly useful. The second reason, because if you're getting a lot of notification, it'll be pinging your watch quite a lot and that'll be using battery life. My other tip is turn off Wi-Fi. Again, because your watch connects to your phone via Bluetooth, all the data is transferred over. There's no real need to have Wi-Fi on unless you really need it. And again, it will save battery life. Now, one of the things I think is really good about the Fenix 6 is the new battery saver and power manager mode. First of all, the battery saver mode is really good. At a touch of a button, you can save a lot of battery life. And this is accessed in the quick access menu. However, this is a big kill switch. It will turn a lot of things off on the watch that you may want to use. What a lot of people don't know is you can actually customize the battery saver mode to turn off or turn on individual things depending on how much battery life you want to save. One of the other interesting things, it will also show you the negative or the positive impact of having something on or off on the battery life and this battery saver mode. Now the power manager mode is more aimed towards the sports profiles and activities. Again, there is ones that are already predefined, but again, you can create your own and it's worth having a look to see what you can set up based on your individual circumstances. And again, it will give you an indication by turning something on or off, whether it'll impact positive or negatively. It's worth spending a bit of time, especially if you're going out on a long hike and you want certain things on, but you don't want certain things on. The current stock ones may not meet your requirements. Next up is sensor setup. The Garmin Fenix 6 supports ANT+ and Bluetooth for various different sensors. And when you're setting up an ANT+ sensor, in the main, it's normally a number that comes up and that's how it's identified, which is okay if you're using your own equipment because it's easily something you can relate to and you can identify what it is. And it's particularly useful if you're using gym equipment, say watt bikes, and you may use a different one every day. If you're connecting to a watt bike and you connect to the wrong watt bike data, it will collect the wrong data, obviously. So my top tip is when you connect to that watt bike or gym equipment or whatever it is for the first time, is rename the sensor. So then it's something that you can easily identify. So when you go back in the gym or using a different bit of equipment, then you can easily connect to that rather than connecting to something which will result in you getting the wrong data and spoiling your entire workout. Next up is bands and straps. Now, one of the things that you need to be aware of is the Garmin Fenix 6 series comes with 3 different models and they come with 3 different straps and band sizes. Worth making sure when you're going to buy a band that you check that you're buying the right size because it could be an expensive mistake. It's also worth pointing out that Garmin do sell these, but you can get some great alternatives on Amazon or eBay which are just as good as the Garmin ones, and there's some links in the description below to some of them watch straps. Next up is music and headphones. Now the Garmin Fenix 6 supports a variety of different music services. There's plenty of other videos that show you how to use the music services. I'm not going to go into that here. What I'm going to talk about is the headphones. When you're getting a pair of headphones, make sure you choose a pair of headphones that are suitable for you rather than what your friends got or your colleague at work's got and it says that they are great. Take your time in choosing the right headphones because after all, if you're using it for an activity such as running, the last thing you want is a pair of headphones which are going to be uncomfortable or they're going to be constantly falling out. I use a pair of AirPods and these work for me, but they don't work for other people. So it all depends on your individual circumstances. Next up is GPS settings. The Garmin Fenix 6 supports GPS, GLONASS and Galileo. Now, you've got plenty of choice there depending on which one you want to use on your personal preferences and activities and where you are in the world. However, you need to be aware that the GPS settings are individual to that sport's profile. So say for instance you set up GPS and Galileo for run, and you also want it for cycling, for hiking and for everything else. So you need to go in and set the GPS settings for each sports profile in order to get the right one for you. Next one is the wrist-based HR accuracy. Now, I will always say if you want really good HR accuracy, it's best off using a chest strap, but that's extra money on top of the already expensive device which you've already purchased. And with wrist-based HR sensors, they are prone to inaccuracy due to vibrations, say when cycling, or if you're doing a lot of wrist movements such as weightlifting. However, you can do something which can try and mitigate that, and that's by simply tightening the strap before you start the activity, and then throughout the activity, the sensor is as close and as tight as possible to your skin in order to get the best readings. Then when you finish your activity, you simply loosen it. I found it works for most activities, but again, if you do want the best HR accuracy, then you need to invest in a chest strap. Now the next one is maps and navigation. Now the Garmin Fenix 6 Pro and Sapphire editions come with maps, and you're able to navigate with these. However, since the Fenix 5X came out with maps, I've not rated the maps that come with the Garmin devices. I don't think they're as accurate as they need to be. I also don't think they have the level of detail that I particularly want and a lot of other users. And this is evident by the amount of third-party map services that are out there. My best tip is change the maps out with something that's far more accurate. Certainly if you're wanting topo level detail, then it's worth getting those maps. And if you're going to be buying topo maps from a third party, they're normally significantly cheaper than what you find at Garmin. Next up is watch faces. A number of watch faces come with the Fenix 6, which are the stock watch faces. And I think this year they're pretty good. When you're choosing a watch face and you want a third-party watch face, make sure you choose a watch face that has little animation. And what I mean by that is one that doesn't have hands or constant changes on the screens. This will drain the battery life, and a lot of people will say no it doesn't. Well, I believe it does, because when I've been using watch face with a lot of animation, my battery life has not been as good as say when I've been using a watch face, say no frills from the Connect IQ store. And now talking about the Connect IQ store, you've got your Fenix 6 all set up, all the settings are all ideal, everything is all in place, and you want to get more out your watch. Now you can check out Connect IQ store to download apps, widgets and watch faces. Now these are by third-party developers that have developed various different apps and various different things that might improve your experience with the watch. Now my top tips, and the first one's pretty obvious, check out the reviews, what other people are saying before you download them. There is some really good stuff in there, but there's also a lot of crap in there as well. So make sure you check out the reviews and see what other people are saying. And my other tip is make sure that you have a good look at whether there is any third-party cost to these apps. All of them are free to download. However, to unlock some of the functionality, you need to pay an unlock fee via the developer's website. It'll be clearly called out, but it's worth making sure that you do that before you download an app or a watch face or a widget, and then you're disappointed. Now my final tip is around updates. Now the Fenix 6 has an auto update option. This should be on by default, but you need to check to make sure that's switched on within the settings menu. This will update things like the firmware, the sensor firmware, and small things that are on device. What it won't do, it won't update the maps, and sometimes some of the updates are not automatically pushed through to the watch. So what I do is I connect my Fenix device to Garmin Connect on a regular basis, once a week, once a month, to see if there's any updates that have not been pushed to the device, particularly around the maps, because they will not be pushed through the device, and it will keep your watch up to date. And it will certainly, if there's any bugs or any issues, hopefully iron those out and give you a better experience. So guys, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you found this useful, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up. If you've got your own suggestion or you've got a question or a comment, leave it in the comment section below, and also don't forget to subscribe. Also check out the channel, there's some other videos that you might find useful, and also check out my website. Again, there's a link in the description below. Thank you very much, I'll speak to you soon.